300 people were packed into the parking lot of our brand new Georgetown restaurant. Local news cameras, the mayor, Chamber of Commerce big shots in their fancy suits, my whole family up on that stage smiling for the cameras. And my daughter-in-law Megan standing at the podium, about to accept an award she'd manipulated half the town into giving her. Rising Business Leader of the Year, that's what the plaque said. She was beaming like she'd earned it. She hadn't earned a damn thing. I let her finish her little speech, let her thank the community, thank the family, thank everyone who'd believed in her vision. I even clapped, smiled for the cameras like a proud father-in-law. Then I walked up to that microphone. "Before we continue the celebration," I said, my voice steady, "I think everyone here deserves to know the truth about the woman standing next to me." I held up a folder, thick, heavy, 3 months of evidence. Including, I added, the arson she committed 3 weeks ago. The crowd went dead silent. Megan's smile froze on her face. Behind me, I heard my wife Betty whisper, "Give him hell, Ray." So I did. How did I get to that stage? How did I go from trusting my daughter-in-law with my life's work to exposing her crimes in front of 300 people and a television camera? That story starts with a waitress who risked her job to tell me the truth. But before I get there, I want to ask you something. Have you ever built something with your own 2 hands, something that took decades of blood and sweat and sacrifice, only to watch someone try to steal it from you? If you have, I want to hear about it in the comments. And if you believe that loyalty and hard work still mean something in this world, subscribe to John Vengeance, because this story is just getting started. I'd built Caldwell's Smokehouse from a food truck to 5 restaurants. I never imagined someone in my own family would try to burn it all down, literally. My name is Raymond Caldwell. Most folks call me Ray. I'm 74 years old, and for the past 46 years, I've been smoking brisket in Central Texas. I started with nothing, a used food truck I bought for $3,000 in 1978, back when Austin was still a sleepy college town and nobody'd heard of farm-to-table or artisanal barbecue. Just me, a smoker I welded together from an old oil drum, and my wife Betty handing plates through the window. We parked that truck outside construction sites, factory gates, anywhere working men needed a hot lunch. $5 got you a brisket plate with 2 sides and a slice of white bread. No frills, just good food, cooked slow, served with respect. For 10 years we worked that truck, 18-hour days. Betty, pregnant with our son Travis, still taking orders with her belly pressed against the counter. We saved every penny, reinvested everything.
In 1988, we opened our first brick-and-mortar location in Austin, Caldwell's Smokehouse. 70 seats, nothing fancy, wood-paneled walls, paper towel rolls on every table, a screen door that slammed every time someone walked in. That restaurant almost killed us. First 2 years, we barely broke even. I worked the pit from 4 in the morning until midnight, sleeping in a cot in the back room. Betty handled everything else. The books, the suppliers, the customers, the health inspectors. We couldn't afford to hire anyone we didn't absolutely need. But we survived. Then we grew. By 2000, we had 2 locations. By 2010, we had 4. By 2020, 5 restaurants across Central Texas. Austin, San Marcos, New Braunfels, Kyle, Buda. Caldwell's Smokehouse wasn't just a business. It was our life. It was our legacy. And when my son Travis took over as head pitmaster at the Austin flagship location, I thought we'd built something that would last for generations. I was wrong about a lot of things back then. Stop. Let me tell you about the kind of marriage Betty and I have, because without her, I wouldn't have survived what came next. Betty Dotson was 17 when I first saw her, junior year at Dripping Springs High School. She was sitting in the bleachers at a football game, eating a snow cone, laughing at something her friend said. I was supposed to be watching the game. Instead, I spent the whole 4th quarter trying to work up the courage to talk to her. I finally did, asked if I could buy her another snow cone. She said, "You can try." We've been together ever since, 51 years married. 2 kids, though we lost our daughter Sarah to a car accident when she was 19. That's a grief that never leaves you, but it bonded us in ways I can't explain. Betty and I don't keep secrets. We don't lie to each other. We fight sometimes, sure, but at the end of every day, we're still a team. When I started Caldwell Smokehouse, Betty was right there beside me, not just supporting me, building it with me. She's got a head for numbers I never had. She kept us from going bankrupt those first few lean years. She negotiated our first real estate deal when I was too stubborn to admit we needed help. Betty Caldwell is the smartest person I know. And when things started going wrong, she was the one who figured out where to look. Our son Travis was a good boy who grew into a good man. Born in 1982, grew up in the restaurants. By the time he was 10, he could work the pit better than some of my adult employees. He had a gift for smoke, for timing, for understanding what the meat needed. Travis took over as head pitmaster in 2015. I was proud of him. Still am. He's not a businessman, not like his mother, but he's an artist in that kitchen. Every brisket that comes out of the Austin location has his hands on it somewhere. In 2016, Travis married Megan Brewer.
She was 31 then. Attractive, professional, had an MBA from Texas State, worked at a marketing firm in Austin. Smart, ambitious, charming. She seemed perfect for Travis, who'd always been a little quiet, a little unsure of himself outside the kitchen. At first, I liked her. She was organized, efficient. She offered to help with the business, updating our social media, modernizing our point-of-sale systems, setting up online ordering before most barbecue joints knew what that was. She called me Daddy Ray and brought me pecan pie on my birthday. Betty was less convinced. "There's something off about that girl," she'd say late at night when it was just us. "She smiles too much, laughs at jokes that aren't funny. I don't trust people who work that hard to be liked." I told Betty she was being too hard on Megan, that she was just trying to fit into the family, that we should give her a chance. That was my first mistake. By 2018, Megan had made herself indispensable to the business. She handled the books, managed our vendors, coordinated schedules across all 5 locations. Travis trusted her completely. He was focused on the food. She handled the business side. Slowly, without me quite realizing, she took over more and more. Vendor relationships that used to go through me started going through Megan. Employee decisions I would have been consulted on were made without me. Financial reports I used to review personally were now summarized for me by Megan, who assured me everything was fine. "You should relax, Daddy Ray," she'd say with that sweet smile. "You've earned it. Let us handle the stress." I was 71 years old, tired. My knees hurt from decades of standing over smokers. I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe my son had married a good woman who had the family's best interests at heart. So I let her handle things, and I missed what was happening right in front of me. The first hint of trouble came in spring of last year. I was reviewing our quarterly numbers, something I still insisted on doing despite Megan's assurances that everything was fine. The profit margins were down. Not dramatically, but enough for me to notice. 3% lower than the same quarter the previous year, across all 5 locations. I asked Megan about it. She smiled, waved her hand. "Food costs are up everywhere, Daddy Ray. You know how it is. Beef prices, supply chain issues. We're actually doing better than most restaurants right now." Made sense. Inflation was hitting everyone hard. I let it go. But something gnawed at me, something I couldn't quite name. Then Rosa Delgado sat down across from me at a church pancake breakfast. Rosa had worked at our Austin location for 12 years, started as a busser, worked her way up to head waitress. Single mom, 2 kids, hardest worker I'd ever seen. I paid for her daughter Maria's community college when Rosa couldn't afford the tuition. She called me Mr. Ray and treated me like family.
That Sunday morning, she walked up to the table where Betty and I were eating our pancakes. Her hands were shaking. "Mr. Ray, Mrs. Betty, can I talk to you outside? It's important." Betty and I exchanged a look. We followed Rosa to the parking lot, behind the fellowship hall, away from the crowd. Rosa was crying before she got the first words out. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have said something sooner, but I was scared. I didn't want to cause trouble. I didn't know what to do." I put my hand on her shoulder. "Rosa, whatever it is, you can tell us. We're family." She took a deep breath. "It's Mrs. Megan. I've been seeing things that don't look right." "What kind of things?" Rosa looked around, making sure no one was listening. "Late at night, after closing, she comes in with a man I don't recognize. They go into the office, lock the door. I've seen them loading boxes into his car, boxes of files." "Do you know who this man is?" "No, sir, but I heard her call him Colton. He dresses fancy, drives a black Mercedes. Mr. Ray, I don't think she's running the business the way you think she is." My blood ran cold, not because I believed Rosa was lying, because I knew in that moment that she was telling the truth.
What else have you seen? Rosa hesitated. Vendors I never heard of, checks to companies that never deliver anything. Mrs. Megan, she changed the locks on the file room 6 months ago, said it was for security. But Mr. Ray, I think she's hiding something. I thanked Rosa, told her she'd done the right thing, asked her to keep her eyes open, but not to put herself at risk. Then Betty and I drove home in silence. Finally, Betty spoke. I told you from the beginning. I know. That woman has been robbing us blind, and God knows what else. I know, Betty. She looked at me with those sharp blue eyes, 51 years of marriage in that look. So what are we going to do about it? I gripped the steering wheel, stared at the road ahead. We're going to find out exactly what she's done, and then we're going to stop her. Those emails Betty found, they would later be read aloud in court, but when I first saw them, I had to sit down before I fell down. Betty still had admin access to the business email server, something Megan didn't know about or had forgotten about. An old login from when Betty handled the books herself, back before Megan took over. That night, Betty sat down at our home computer and started digging. It took her 3 hours to find it. A second email account, created under a variation of our business domain. CaldwellsSH.com instead of CaldwellsSmokehouse.com. So similar, most people wouldn't notice the difference. The account was registered to M. Caldwell, Megan, and the emails in that account painted a picture that made my stomach turn. Betty called me over. Ray, you need to see this.
I leaned over her shoulder, read the first email, dated 8 months earlier, from Megan to someone named Colton Vance. The old man is slowing down. I can see it. Another year, maybe 2, and we can push him out completely. Once I have controlling interest, we rebrand the whole operation. Caldwell's Smokehouse becomes Southern Smoke Co. Modern, scalable, no more of this hick bullshit. Hick bullshit. That's what she called 46 years of work. That's what she called my life. The next email was worse. Travis is easy to manage. He just wants to cook. Keep him happy in the kitchen, and he signs whatever I put in front of him. The old man and his wife are the problem. They keep asking questions, but don't worry, I have a plan for them. A plan for them, for me and Betty. I kept reading, email after email. Plans to force me into retirement. Plans to use cognitive concerns to have me declared unfit. Plans to restructure the ownership, giving Megan controlling interest through documents Travis would sign without reading. And through it all, references to Colton, her partner, her lover. Once this is done, Megan wrote in one email, we can finally be together. Travis doesn't deserve the business anyway. He just inherited it by accident of birth. We're the ones with the vision. We're the ones who should be running this empire. Empire. She called my 5 barbecue joints an empire she was going to steal. I sat down heavily in my chair. Betty put her hand on my shoulder. There's more, she said quietly. You need to see the financial records. The next morning, I started making phone calls. First, I called our family lawyer, Bill Hensley. Semi-retired, known my family for 30 years. I told him what Betty had found. He agreed to review any documents Megan had been having Travis sign. Second, I called my insurance agent, Tommy Fitch. Told him I wanted to review our business policies, make sure nothing had been changed without my knowledge. Third, I started talking to my employees, quietly, privately. People I'd known for decades. People who owed their livelihoods to Caldwell Smokehouse and would never betray us. What I found confirmed everything Rosa had warned me about. Carlos, our floor manager in San Marcos, told me about vendors he'd never seen deliver anything. Checks going out every month to companies I never heard of, Mr. Ray. When I asked Mrs. Megan about it, she told me it wasn't my concern. Jenny, our bookkeeper before Megan took over the finances, told me about discrepancies she'd noticed before she was reassigned to inventory management. The numbers didn't add up, Mr. Ray. I told Mrs. Megan, and the next week she moved me out of the office, said I was better suited to warehouse work. And Miguel, our delivery driver for 15 years, told me about late-night trips Megan had him make. She had me drop boxes at a storage unit in Austin, never told me what was in them, just said it was old files that needed to be archived. Storage unit, files being moved off-site, evidence being hidden. I wrote everything down, names, dates, details. Old habit from running a business for 46 years. Every conversation in my journal, time-stamped and initialed. Bill Hensley called me back 3 days later, His voice was grim. "Ray, I've reviewed the documents you sent me, the ones Megan has been having Travis sign. And? They're not routine business forms, they're partial ownership transfers. Over the past 2 years, Megan has gradually moved 38% of Caldwell Smokehouse into a holding company she controls. Travis signed every document thinking it was standard paperwork. 38%. More than a third of my business signed away by my own son without him even knowing. Is it legal? It's fraud, Ray. Travis didn't understand what he was signing. He was deceived. We can fight it, but it's going to be a battle." I thanked Bill, hung up the phone. Then I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I started hiding evidence from my own daughter-in-law, copying files, photographing documents, storing everything in a safe deposit box that only Betty and I knew about. Because I knew, if Megan realized I was onto her, she'd destroy everything. And as it turned out, I was right. The first sign that Megan knew I was investigating came 2 weeks after I started gathering evidence. Travis called me on a Tuesday afternoon. His voice was hesitant, uncomfortable, the voice of a man being asked to do something he didn't want to do. "Dad, can we talk? Maybe come over for dinner tonight?" "Of course, son. Everything okay?" Long pause. "Megan's worried about you, about your health." My grip tightened on the phone. "My health is fine, Travis." I know. It's just, she says you've been acting strange lately, asking weird questions, going through old files. She's concerned that maybe, I don't know, Dad. She thinks you should see someone. See someone. A doctor, just to make sure everything's okay. You know, at your age. At my age. There it was. The first move in Megan's playbook. The same strategy I'd read about in those emails. Convince everyone the old man is losing his mind. "Travis, I'm fine. My mind is as sharp as it's ever been. I believe you, Dad. But Megan thinks. I don't care what Megan thinks." My voice came out harder than I intended. "Travis, listen to me. Something is going on. Something you don't know about. I can't explain right now, but I need you to trust me. Don't sign anything Megan puts in front of you. Anything. Not until we talk." Silence on the line. Then, "Dad, you're scaring me. What's going on?" "Soon, son. I'll explain everything soon. Just trust me." He said he would. I hoped he meant it. 3 days later, Megan made her first real counterattack.
A man named Dr. Harrison Polk called my cell phone, said he was a geriatric specialist, that my daughter-in-law had contacted about my concerning cognitive symptoms. Said Megan had scheduled an appointment for me at his clinic in Austin the following Monday at 2 o'clock. "Mr. Caldwell, I understand family members often resist these evaluations, but early intervention is critical for conditions like yours." "Conditions like what?" "Well, I haven't examined you yet, but based on what Mrs. Caldwell has described, confusion, memory lapses, paranoid ideation, it sounds like we might be dealing with early-stage dementia, very treatable if we catch it early." Paranoid ideation. That's what she was telling people, that I was paranoid. "Dr. Polk, let me be very clear. I don't have dementia. I haven't experienced any cognitive decline, and I won't be attending your appointment." "Mr. Caldwell, denial is very common at this stage." I hung up. Betty was standing in the kitchen doorway, watching me. "Let me guess, they're trying to have you declared incompetent." Megan found herself a doctor willing to say whatever she wants. Betty's jaw tightened. Not on my watch. That afternoon, Betty called our family physician, Dr. Margaret Okonkwo. We'd known her for 20 years, delivered both our grandchildren. She agreed to see me the next morning for a full cognitive evaluation. I spent 4 hours at Dr. Okonkwo's office. Memory tests, reasoning puzzles, physical coordination assessments, brain scans, the works. The results came back 3 days later. "Ray," Dr. Okonkwo said, a smile on her face, "your cognitive function is excellent, better than most men your age. Whatever your daughter-in-law thinks is wrong with you, it isn't your brain." I asked her to put it in writing, a formal letter on her letterhead stating that Raymond Caldwell showed no signs of cognitive impairment. She did.
I made 3 copies, put one in the safe deposit box. When Megan's friendly doctor tried to file a report suggesting I needed a guardian, Dr. Okonkwo's letter shut it down before it went anywhere. But Megan wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. I'm 74 years old. I built Caldwell's Smokehouse with my bare hands, watched it grow from a food truck to 5 restaurants. And now I was fighting to save it from a woman who'd married my son just to steal it. But I'll tell you something. That fight lit a fire in me I hadn't felt in years. Betty saw it too. She said I walked taller, talked sharper, like the old Ray was back, the one who'd worked 18-hour days and dared the world to knock him down. Megan wanted a war, she'd get one, but it was going to be on my terms. I drove past my San Marcos restaurant and saw fire trucks, flames pouring from the roof, smoke billowing into the night sky, and I knew right then that Megan had tried to destroy the evidence.
It was a Thursday night. Around 11 o'clock, Betty and I were watching the news when my phone rang. Carlos, the San Marcos floor manager. "Mr. Ray," his voice was shaking. "The restaurant, it's on fire." I broke every speed limit getting there. By the time I arrived, half the building was engulfed. Firefighters were pouring water onto the flames, but I could tell it was too late. The structure was gone. I stood in the parking lot, watching 46 years of work burn. Betty stood beside me, her hand in mine. "The file room," I said quietly. "All the original records, the vendor files, the check copies, they were all in there." Betty squeezed my hand. "She did this." "I know." "Can you prove it?" "Not yet." The fire investigators initially ruled it accidental, electrical fault in the kitchen, faulty wiring in an old building, tragic, but not criminal. I didn't believe it for a second. Tommy Fitch, my insurance agent, called me 2 days later. "Ray, I've been looking at this fire report. Something doesn't smell right." "Tell me." "The origin point. The investigators say it started in the kitchen, near the fryers. But your kitchen was inspected 3 months ago. Everything was up to code. And the way the fire spread, it's inconsistent with an electrical fault." "What are you saying, Tommy?" "I'm saying I think someone set this fire on purpose, and I'm recommending we bring in an independent arson investigator before we process the insurance claim." I agreed immediately. Tommy brought in a specialist named Frank Del Rio, retired ATF, now private. He spent a week going through the wreckage. What he found changed everything. Accelerant, traces of gasoline in the file room, exactly where the records were stored. The fire hadn't started in the kitchen at all. It had started in the file room and spread to make it look like a kitchen fire. "Mr. Caldwell," Del Rio told me, "this wasn't an accident. This was arson. Someone wanted to destroy whatever was in that file room. I knew who. I just needed proof." That's when I installed the cameras. After the fire, I told Megan and Travis that I was stepping back for a while, taking Dr. Polk's advice, letting the younger generation handle the stress. Megan smiled that sweet smile and said she thought that was a wonderful idea. She thought she'd won. She thought she'd broken me. She had no idea what I was doing. I hired a security company to install hidden cameras at all 4 remaining locations. Not the obvious security cameras we already had. Small, concealed cameras in offices, storage rooms, anywhere Megan might have private conversations. It was my property, my business. I had every right to record what happened there. And then I waited. The arson investigator called me 3 weeks later. "Mr. Caldwell, we found accelerant. This wasn't an accident. This was attempted murder of your business." Then he said, "And we know who did it." But I already knew, because the hidden cameras had captured everything.
3 days after the fire, Megan came to the Austin location late at night, around 1 in the morning. She thought everyone was gone. But the cameras were watching. A man arrived 20 minutes later. Tall, well-dressed, black Mercedes. The man Rosa had described, Colton Vance. They went into the back office, locked the door, and they talked. The audio was clear as a bell. "It's done," Megan said. "The San Marcos records are gone. All of it. The fake vendors, the shell company paperwork, everything." Colton nodded. "Good. That was getting too risky. The old man was asking too many questions. He's handled. I've got a doctor ready to declare him mentally unfit. His own son thinks he's losing his mind. By this time next month, I'll have controlling interest, and he'll be out." Colton laughed. "And then we rebrand. Southern Smoke Company. We launched the Georgetown location as the flagship of the new brand. National expansion within 2 years, and nobody will remember the hicks who started this place."
They kissed, long and slow. My daughter-in-law and her lover, celebrating the destruction of my life's work in my own restaurant. I watched that recording 7 times. Each time, I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. Not anger, something beyond anger. Certainty. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I contacted the local police, shared the arson investigation results and the video footage. They agreed there was enough for a criminal investigation, but they wanted to build a stronger case before making arrests. Then I contacted the Texas Rangers. Arson involving a business crossing county lines. Potential organized fraud. Possible insurance fraud. They took over the investigation. And I started planning for Georgetown. You see, Megan had been pushing hard for us to open a 6th location. Georgetown, Texas. Growing town, affluent community, perfect market for upscale barbecue. She'd handled all the preparations, found the location, negotiated the lease, planned the build-out. She'd also arranged for a grand opening celebration. 300 guests, local politicians, Chamber of Commerce leadership, news cameras, and a special presentation where she would accept an award for Rising Business Leader of the Year, an award she'd essentially lobbied the chamber into creating for herself. Megan thought that grand opening was her coronation. She had no idea she was walking onto a stage I'd been building for 3 months. If you're still watching this story, I need you to do something. Hit that like button. Share this video with someone who's fighting their own battle, because what happens next is the moment I've been working toward for 3 months. Here's where a 74-year-old pitmaster from Texas showed a con artist what happens when you mess with a man's life's work.
The grand opening was scheduled for a Saturday in late September. Perfect Texas weather. Blue sky, temperature in the low 80s, just enough breeze to carry the smoke from the pits across the parking lot. Megan had outdone herself with the preparations. Tents with string lights, a stage for speeches, local country band, food stations serving samples from all 5, now 6, locations, a red ribbon waiting to be cut. And 300 people, friends, family, employees from all the restaurants, local business owners, the mayor of Georgetown, a news crew from the Austin CBS affiliate. Everyone Megan wanted to impress, everyone who would witness her triumph. Or so she thought. I arrived early, shook hands, smiled for photos, played the role of the proud, slightly confused patriarch, happy to let the younger generation take the spotlight. Betty was by my side, squeezing my hand every few minutes. Our signal: stay calm, stick to the plan. Detective Rita Hernandez from the Travis County Sheriff's Office was positioned near the catering tent, dressed like one of the caterers. 2 plainclothes deputies were mingling with the crowd. Frank Del Rio, the arson investigator, was waiting in a car in the parking lot with copies of his report. And in my inside jacket pocket was a flash drive containing everything: the emails, the forged documents, the financial records, the video of Megan and Colton from the Austin restaurant. At 3 o'clock, the speeches began. The mayor spoke first, praised the Caldwell family for our commitment to the community, welcomed us to Georgetown. Standard political stuff. Then the Chamber of Commerce president took the stage, a woman named Patricia Holbrook. She'd been schmoozing with Megan for weeks, clearly impressed by her business acumen and vision for growth. "It's my great pleasure," Patricia said, "to present the Rising Business Leader of the Year award to a woman who represents the future of Texas hospitality, a woman who has brought fresh energy and modern thinking to a beloved family business. Please join me in welcoming Megan Caldwell." Applause. Cheers from employees who didn't know any better. Megan walked to the podium, beaming, wearing a dress that probably cost more than my first food truck. She gave a beautiful speech, gracious and humble, praising the Caldwell family legacy, thanking Travis for his support, acknowledging the foundation that Betty and I had built. "Caldwell Smokehouse isn't just a business," she said. "It's a family, and I'm honored to be part of that family." She paused for applause. Then she said, "And I especially want to thank my father-in-law, Ray Caldwell, who taught me everything I know about dedication and hard work. Daddy Ray, would you come up here and say a few words?" I stood up slowly, every eye in the crowd on me. The news camera swung in that direction. I walked to the stage, climbed the steps, stood next to Megan at the podium. She hugged me for the cameras, whispered in my ear,
Keep it short, Daddy Ray. This is my moment. I smiled, stepped to the microphone. Thank you, Megan, and thank you all for coming today. I looked out at the crowd, at my employees, at the news cameras, at Betty, standing in the front row with tears already in her eyes. Before we continue the celebration, I said, I think everyone here deserves to know the truth about the woman standing next to me. I reached into my jacket, pulled out the folder, including the arson she committed 3 weeks ago. Dead silence, 300 people holding their breath. Megan laughed, a nervous, tinkling sound. Daddy Ray, you're confused. This isn't... I'm not confused. I looked directly at her. No warmth in my eyes, no pretense. I've never been clearer in my life. I turned back to the crowd. For the past 2 years, this woman has been systematically stealing from Caldwell Smokehouse. She's created fake vendors to funnel money out of the business. She's forged documents to transfer ownership to herself. And 3 weeks ago, when I started getting too close to the truth, she burned down our San Marcos location to destroy the evidence. Gasps from the crowd. Megan's face had gone pale. That's insane, she said, her voice rising. He's lost his mind. I told you all, he has dementia. This is exactly what I was worried about. Travis, do something. I looked at my son. He was standing at the edge of the stage, frozen, his face a mask of confusion and dawning horror. Travis, I said calmly, I want you to listen to something. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the PA system, pressed play. Megan's voice, crystal clear, filled the air. It's done. The San Marcos records are gone. All of it. The fake vendors, the shell company paperwork, everything. Then Colton's voice. Good. That was getting too risky. The old man was asking too many questions. Then Megan again. He's handled. I've got a doctor ready to declare him mentally unfit. His own son thinks he's losing his mind. By this time next month, I'll have controlling interest and he'll be out. I let the recording play for another minute. The crowd stood in stunned silence. The news camera was still rolling. When it finished, I looked at Megan. Would you like me to play the part where you call this business hick bullshit? Or the part where you and your boyfriend plan to rebrand and erase everything the Caldwell family built? Megan's composure shattered. Her face twisted into something ugly. The mask she'd worn for 8 years finally slipping away. You stupid old man, she screamed. You think you've won? You haven't won anything. Those recordings are illegal, that we thrown out. My lawyer will... Your lawyer will have bigger problems, I interrupted. Frank? Frank Del Rio stepped forward from the edge of the crowd. He held up a folder.
I'm Frank Del Rio, arson investigator. 3 days ago, I completed my analysis of the San Marcos fire. Accelerant was found at the origin point, in the file room. This fire was deliberately set. Based on video evidence provided by Mr. Caldwell, arrest warrants have been issued for Megan Caldwell and Colton Vance. Megan's eyes went wild. She looked around desperately, searching for an exit. Travis, she screamed, do something. Tell them this is all lies. Travis was staring at her like he'd never seen her before. His voice, when it came, was hollow. Is it true? Any of it? Were you really going to have my father declared incompetent? Travis, baby, it's complicated. I was doing this for us, for our family. You have to understand. Were you having an affair? Megan stopped. Something flickered across her face. Calculation, deciding whether to keep lying. Then her expression hardened. Colton understands me. He sees my potential, unlike you. You're just like your father, small-minded, content with nothing. You would have kept this business exactly where it is forever. I wanted more. Travis looked like she'd stabbed him in the chest. That's when Megan ran. She kicked off her heels and sprinted toward the parking lot, shoving guests out of her way. She made it about 30 feet before Detective Hernandez intercepted her. Megan Caldwell, you're under arrest for arson, insurance fraud, forgery, and theft. You have the right to remain silent. Megan screamed, cursed, fought like a wildcat as they cuffed her. She screamed my name, called me every foul word she knew, promised I'd regret this until my dying day. I just watched. Betty's hand found mine. We stood together as they loaded Megan into a sheriff's vehicle.
Later, I learned that Colton Vance was arrested at his Houston apartment that same afternoon. The Texas Rangers had coordinated the timing perfectly. He never even saw it coming. I looked at Travis. My son was standing alone at the edge of the stage, tears streaming down his face. His world had just collapsed. His marriage, his family, everything he thought he knew. I walked over to him, put my hand on his shoulder. "Son," he couldn't look at me. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I should have seen it. I should have known. She fooled all of us for a while. What matters is the truth came out. I signed those documents. I helped her steal from you. You were deceived. That's not the same as choosing to do wrong." He finally looked up. His eyes were red, swollen, filled with pain I wished I could take from him. "What happens now?" I looked out at the crowd. People were still milling around, shocked, talking in hushed voices. The news crew was packing up, already rushing back to the station with the story of the year. "Now we rebuild," I said, "same as we've always done, one day at a time." Betty joined us. She hugged Travis, held him while he sobbed like a child. My family, broken but still standing.
The Georgetown location opened 3 weeks later. No fanfare, no speeches. Just good barbecue and a sign in the window that said, "Under new management, same old quality." Travis ran the place himself, threw himself into the work like a man possessed. I think the kitchen was the only place he felt safe anymore. And me? I went home with Betty, sat on our porch, and watched the sun set over the hill country. We'd won. It didn't feel like victory, but we'd survived. And sometimes, that's enough. The trial took place 6 months later in the Travis County Courthouse in Austin. I testified for 4 hours over 2 days, walked the jury through everything. Rosa's warning at the church breakfast, Betty's discovery of the secret emails, the fake vendors and shell companies, the forged ownership documents, the arson investigation, the hidden camera footage. Megan's defense attorney tried every angle, claimed the recordings were illegally obtained, claimed the emails were fabricated, claimed I was a confused old man seeking revenge against a daughter-in-law who'd tried to modernize a failing business. But the evidence was overwhelming. Frank Del Rio testified about the accelerant found at the fire scene. The arson was undeniable. Detective Hernandez presented the chain of evidence, meticulously documented, showing exactly how Megan and Colton had conspired to steal my business and destroy the proof. The bank record showed $78,000 in payments to fake vendors over 18 months. The forged documents showed 38% of ownership transferred through fraudulent means. The email showed premeditation, contempt, and criminal intent. And the video. That video of Megan and Colton celebrating in my office, kissing while they discussed burning down my restaurant and pushing me out of my own business. The jury watched it 3 times. By the 3rd viewing, 2 of them were visibly disgusted. Megan didn't testify. Smart move by her lawyer. After her screaming breakdown at the grand opening, anything she said would only make things worse. The prosecutor, a sharp young woman named Angela Reyes, delivered a closing argument I'll never forget. "This isn't a case of family disagreement or business competition. This is a case of calculated betrayal. The defendant married into a family specifically to exploit them. She spent 8 years building trust, all while planning to steal everything they'd worked for. And when her scheme was threatened, she committed arson. She burned down a restaurant. She could have killed someone." Reyes turned to face Megan. "The defendant didn't just steal money. She stole time. She stole trust. She stole a son from his father by filling his head with lies about dementia. She tried to destroy a 74-year-old man's legacy, and when that didn't work, she tried to destroy the evidence with fire." She looked at the jury.
The people of Texas ask for justice, not revenge. Justice. Because if we don't hold people accountable for this kind of calculated cruelty, then nothing is safe. Not our businesses, not our families, not our lives. The jury deliberated for 5 hours. Guilty on all counts. Arson in the 1st degree, insurance fraud, forgery, theft by embezzlement, conspiracy. The sentencing hearing came 3 weeks later. I was there. Betty was there. Travis sat in the back row, still unable to face his wife directly.
Judge William Hartley had presided over the trial, a no-nonsense man in his 60s, silver-haired, with a reputation for harsh sentences when he felt justice demanded it. Megan stood before him in an orange jumpsuit. Her hair was limp. Her face was gaunt. The polished woman who'd accepted that business award just months earlier was gone. What remained was someone hollow, beaten. Judge Hartley reviewed the charges. Then he spoke directly to Megan. Miss Caldwell, I've been on this bench for 23 years. I've seen crimes of passion, crimes of desperation, crimes committed in the heat of the moment. This was none of those things. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. This was a calculated, long-term scheme to exploit a family that welcomed you with open arms. You manipulated your husband, you lied to your children, you attempted to have an innocent man declared mentally incompetent, and when your plan was threatened, you burned down a building, putting lives at risk and destroying decades of work. Megan said nothing, just stared straight ahead. The defendant is hereby sentenced to 6 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for arson in the first degree, an additional 3 years for insurance fraud, to run consecutively, 2 years for forgery and embezzlement, to run concurrently. 6 years. With good behavior, she might serve 4. But in Texas, arson carries serious time. She wasn't walking away from this. Furthermore, Judge Hartley continued, the defendant is ordered to pay $312,000 in restitution to the Caldwell family for damages incurred through theft and property destruction. Megan finally reacted, a small flinch. She didn't have $300,000. That debt would follow her forever. Finally, based on evidence of child endangerment through involvement in criminal conspiracy, parental rights are hereby terminated. Full custody of Emma and Jack Caldwell is awarded to their father, Travis Caldwell. Megan's head snapped up. For the first time, real emotion crossed her face. Not remorse, fear, loss, the realization that she would never be their mother again. No, she whispered. Then louder, no, you can't do this. They're my children. Travis, please, don't let them take my babies. Travis didn't move, didn't look at her, just sat in the back row with his head bowed. The bailiffs led Megan away. She was still screaming as the courtroom doors closed behind her.
I sat in my seat for a long time after that. Betty held my hand. Neither of us spoke. It was over, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like surgery, cutting out something diseased so the body could survive. Necessary, painful, not something to celebrate. Colton Vance was tried separately 2 months later. His case was more straightforward. The video evidence showed clear conspiracy. His communications with Megan showed planning and intent. And his prior fraud conviction in Houston meant enhanced sentencing. The jury convicted him in 3 hours. He received 8 years. No possibility of parole until he served half his sentence. By the time he got out, he'd be pushing 50. His restaurant dreams long dead. I didn't attend his sentencing. I'd had enough of courtrooms by then. The months after the trial were the hardest. Not because of the business. The business recovered. Insurance covered most of the San Marcos rebuild. The Georgetown location was doing well. Our customers rallied around us, outraged by what Megan had done, determined to support the Caldwell family. The hard part was Travis. My son was broken. The woman he'd loved, the mother of his children, had used him as a pawn. She'd never loved him. She'd seen him as a means to an end, a pathway to money and power. For 2 months, he couldn't look me in the eye. Every time he saw me, he saw his own failure, the documents he'd signed, the warnings he'd ignored, the way he'd started to believe I was losing my mind because his wife told him so. He threw himself into work, 16-hour days at the Austin kitchen, sleeping in the back office, barely seeing his own children. Betty and I took care of Emma and Jack during those months, picked them up from school, made them dinner, helped with homework, tucked them in at night. They asked about their mother sometimes. Those were the hardest conversations.
Grandpa, when is Mommy coming home? Jack was only 4. He didn't understand. Couldn't understand. Mommy made some very bad choices, buddy. She has to go away for a while. But your daddy loves you, and Grandma and I love you. You're safe. Did Mommy do something wrong? Yes, sweetheart, she did. Did she hurt you? I looked at this little boy with his big brown eyes, trying to make sense of an incomprehensible world. His mother, his grandmother's murderer of businesses and families. How do you explain that to a child? She tried to, I said finally, but she didn't succeed. And now we're going to make sure everyone is okay. Jack hugged me, his small arms around my neck, and I held him and tried not to cry. 3 months after the trial, Travis came to our house. It was a Sunday morning. Betty was making pancakes. I was sitting on the porch with my coffee, watching the sunrise over the hill country. His truck pulled into the driveway. He got out slowly, stood there for a moment, like he was gathering courage. Then he walked up to the porch and sat down beside me.
We didn't speak for a long time, just sat together, watching the light spread across the hills. Finally, Travis spoke. "I'm sorry, Dad." His voice cracked, the voice of my little boy, the one who used to follow me around the food truck, asking 100 questions about smoke and seasoning. "I know, son. I should have listened to you, should have trusted you, should have seen what she was from the beginning. You loved her. Love makes us blind sometimes. She made me think you were losing your mind. I believed her. I almost let her destroy you." I put my hand on his shoulder, but you didn't. In the end, when the truth came out, you saw it. You believed your own eyes. That's what matters. Travis broke down, sobbed like he hadn't since he was a child, all the grief and shame and guilt pouring out of him. I held my son, let him cry. Didn't tell him it was okay because it wasn't. Didn't tell him it didn't hurt because it did. But I held him, and when he finally quieted, I said the only thing that mattered. "You're my son. Nothing changes that. Nothing ever could." He looked at me with red eyes. How do I move forward? How do I look at my kids and explain what their mother did? One day at a time. Same way we built the business. Same way we rebuilt after the fire. You don't try to fix everything at once. You just keep showing up. Keep doing the right thing. Keep loving them. Will it ever stop hurting? I thought about that question. Thought about Sarah, the daughter we'd lost. Thought about all the grief and struggle and hardship of 74 years. No, I said honestly. Some hurts don't go away. They just become part of you. But you learn to carry them, and eventually they make you stronger. Travis nodded slowly. "I want to come back, Dad. Really come back. Not just working in the kitchen, running the business, making this right." I was hoping you'd say that. We shook hands. Then we hugged, father and son, broken but rebuilding. Betty came out with a plate of pancakes. "Am I interrupting something?" Travis wiped his eyes. "No, Mama, just talking about the future." Betty smiled, that warm, knowing smile I'd fallen in love with 51 years ago. "Good, because those grandchildren of mine need pancakes, and I need help eating all of these." Travis laughed, the first real laugh I'd heard from him in months. We ate pancakes on the porch, watching the sun climb over the hills, the 3 of us together, like old times. I'm telling you this story because maybe someone out there is watching their business, their legacy, slip away, and they don't know what to do. Maybe someone is being told they're paranoid. Maybe someone's own family has turned against them. Maybe they're starting to believe the lies. I want you to know, you fight. You don't give up. You don't let them win. You gather your evidence. You find your allies. You build your case brick by brick, just like you built everything else in your life.
And when the moment comes, when you've got them dead to rights, you don't hesitate.
You bring the hammer down. That's what I did. That's what saved my family. That's what saved my life's work. 1 year after the trial, we had a celebration. Not a grand opening, not an award ceremony, just a family dinner at the Austin restaurant after closing time. Travis, Betty, me, Emma and Jack, Rosa and her family, Carlos and Jenny and Miguel, and all the loyal employees who'd stood by us through everything. We pushed the tables together, covered them with platters of brisket and ribs and sausage, the best of what Caldwell's Smokehouse had to offer. Travis stood up and raised his glass of sweet tea. "I want to make a toast," he said, "to my father, the toughest, smartest, most stubborn man I've ever known. This past year, I watched him fight for everything he'd built, fight for this family, fight for the truth, and he won." He looked at me with eyes that were wet but clear. "Dad, I spent too many years taking you for granted, taking this business for granted, thinking it would always be here, no matter what. I know better now. I know what you sacrificed to build this, and I promise you I will spend the rest of my life protecting it." Everyone raised their glasses. "To Ray!" I stood up slowly. My knees ached. My back hurt. 74 years of hard work in every joint. But I was smiling. "I'm not much for speeches," I said. "Never have been. I'd rather cook than talk any day." Laughter from the crowd. "But I want to say something to everyone in this room. This past year was the hardest of my life, and I wouldn't have survived it without all of you. Rosa, who risked her job to warn me. Carlos and Jenny and Miguel, who told the truth when it mattered. Bill and Tommy and Frank, who used their expertise to help build our case. Betty, who found the evidence that broke everything open." I looked at my wife. 51 years of partnership in that look. And my son Travis, who was deceived, hurt, betrayed by someone he loved, and still found the strength to stand up for what's right. Travis wiped his eyes. Emma and Jack sat on either side of him, not quite understanding, but knowing this was important. Caldwell's Smokehouse isn't just a business. It's a family. It's always been a family. And families don't break. They bend. They struggle. They fight sometimes. But they don't break. Not as long as there's love holding them together. I raised my glass. To family. The real kind. The kind that matters. To family! We ate until we couldn't eat anymore. We told stories, we laughed. Emma fell asleep in Betty's lap, and Jack climbed to run Travis's shoulders like he used to when he was smaller. Somewhere around midnight, I stepped outside for some air. Stood in the parking lot, looking up at the sign. Caldwell's Smokehouse. The same sign that had hung over our first location 36 years ago. Betty came out and stood beside me. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Sarah," I said, "our daughter, dead for 30 years now. Wondering what she'd think of all this. She'd be proud of you, same as I am. You think so?" Betty took my hand. "I know so. You protected this family, Ray. Just like you always have. Just like you always will." I squeezed her hand. We stood there together. Two old people in a parking lot, looking at the life we'd built. "We should take that trip," I said. "What trip?" "Europe. The one we kept putting off. Paris, Rome, Barcelona. All those places we said we'd see someday." Betty smiled. "You mean it? Travis can handle things now. We've got good people. It's time we enjoyed what we built, instead of just working ourselves to death for it." She kissed my cheek. "I thought you'd never ask." Last month, Betty and I flew to Paris. First real vacation we'd taken in 46 years. First time either of us had been outside the United States. We ate croissants at sidewalk cafes. We walked along the Seine. We climbed the Eiffel Tower, even though my knees complained the whole way. One night we had dinner at a little restaurant in the Latin Quarter. The owner came out to meet us when he heard we were from Texas. "You are in the restaurant business?" he asked in heavily accented English. "Barbecue," I said. 46 years. His eyes lit up. "Barbecue. I have always wanted to try real Texas barbecue." So I told him about Caldwell's Smokehouse, about the food truck, about the restaurants, about smoking brisket low and slow for 16 hours until the bark is black and the meat falls apart at a touch. I didn't tell him about Megan, about the arson, about the trial,
That story wasn't for strangers. But I told him about family, about building something with your own hands, about passing it on to the next generation. He nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. Restaurant people recognize each other no matter what country they're from. When we left, he shook my hand firmly. "You come back," he said. "You bring your barbecue. We will trade recipes." I laughed. Maybe I will. Betty and I walked back to our hotel through the Paris night, the city of lights glowing around us, a world away from Texas. "Happy?" Betty asked. I thought about the question. Really thought about it. Was I happy? After everything that had happened? After the betrayal, the fire, the trial, the pain? "Yeah," I said finally. "I think I am. Even after everything Megan did? Because of everything she tried to do. And failed. She tried to take everything from us. Our business, our son, our sanity. And she lost. We're still here. Still standing. Still together." I squeezed Betty's hand. "That's not just survival. That's victory." Betty smiled. That beautiful smile I'd first seen at a football game 57 years ago. "I love you, Raymond Caldwell." "I love you too, Betty. Always have. Always will."
We walked back to our hotel, an old couple in Paris, holding hands like teenagers, carrying 51 years of marriage and 46 years of barbecue, and one very hard year of fighting for everything we'd built, but still walking, still together, still in love. That's the end of my story. Or maybe it's just the beginning of the next chapter. At 74, you never know how much time you have left. But I plan to spend whatever time I've got, surrounded by family, good food, and the sweet smell of Texas smoke. So let me ask you something. Was I right to expose Megan at her own grand opening? To play that recording in front of 300 people and a news camera? Or would you have handled it differently? Gone to the police quietly? Confronted her in private? Let the lawyers handle everything behind closed doors? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Because there's never just one way to fight back. Every family is different. Every betrayal is different. Every person has to find their own path to justice. This was mine. If this story meant something to you, if you know someone who's fighting their own battle against people who want to take what they've built, share this video. Hit that like button. Subscribe to John Vengeance. And tap that notification bell. Because these stories matter. They remind us that hard work still means something. That loyalty still matters. That family, real family, the kind that sticks together when things get hard, is the most valuable thing we have. Don't let anyone take that from you. Not ever. Stay fierce, stay loyal, stay true, and never forget that it's never too late to fight for what's yours. Until next time, this is Ray Caldwell, signing off. God bless.